Hey, y'all, it's Juanita Coley, the founder of Solid Rock Consulting, where we help call centers implement technology, optimize the technology that they currently have in place, and build better workforce management teams. I want to welcome you to Call Center Chronicles. Call Center Chronicles is a place for CEOs, call center professionals, tech leaders, and yes, the customer, looking to have fun yet thought-provoking conversations around how we improve customer experiences and companies' bottom line. We are on a mission to normalize women in tech and workforce management leadership roles, and we believe that that starts with conversation. Welcome to Call Center Chronicles. Hey, guys, and welcome to Call Center Chronicles. I am your host, Juanita Coley, the Contact Center Whisperer, the CEO and founder of Solid Rock Consulting, and welcome to another episode of Call Center Chronicles. So I'm super excited to have you here. We have an amazing guest lined up for you, like always, okay? We have an amazing guest lined up for you, but let's hop into some of the housekeeping. You already know the rules, okay? You already know y'all are Call Center Chronicles. What should we call ourselves? Call Center Chronicles what? We got to come up with a name for our guests. That's a good one. Okay, I'm writing it down. Anyway, so sound off in the chat. If you are watching live, type in the chat, we live, okay? If you're catching us on replay, hashtag replay, let me know you caught it on replay. Make sure you sound off in the comments in the chat, because even if you're watching it on replay, I come back, I read the comments so I can know what's going on. Y'all help me keep my ear to the streets out here in these call center streets, okay? So I need to be able to hear from you. I need to know what's going on so I can know what topics I need to cover. Lately, we've been talking a lot about AI is not a new conversation at all, right? But we've been talking about it a lot on the heels of ChatGPT, right? So y'all have been like, Juanita, what do you think about ChatGPT in the call center? So I'm like, okay, I was trying to honestly, can I be real with y'all? Y'all know I'm a transparent person, right? I've really been trying to avoid this ChatGPT conversation. Not because ChatGPT is not awesome, but because, when I dig into a conversation, I really like to have teeth around it and have real conversation, right? Not just be talking about it because it's the latest trend, because those things kind of come and they go, and, it's a thing. So as I begin to think about, AI and how it's going to impact contact center and all of those different things, I said, man, this would be an amazing episode. So I can't wait to hop into this episode today. But again, so leave me a comment in the chat. What do you think? How AI, artificial intelligence, will impact the future of work, and how will it impact the contact center space? How will it impact business, period? So if you're not in the call center space and you're tuning in, how has AI, artificial intelligence, impacted just your day-to-day life? I want to hear from you. I want to know what you're thinking. Are you in favor of it or not? That's also what I want to know. Okay, let me know. Are you in favor of artificial intelligence or not? Tell me why as well. Okay. So also lunch and learns. Okay. Y'all know all year long, we on lunch and learn energy. Okay. So we are doing variant lunch and learn. So we're talking about, one of our big missions is to annihilate the user adoption gap between technology and the user. We firmly believe here at Solid Rock Consulting, if you're going to buy a piece of technology, make sure that you're actually using it. You're getting good user adoption out of it. Don't be out here buying a Ferrari and just driving it to the gas station. Like, don't do that. Don't do that, okay? If you're going to buy a Ferrari, drive that thing, okay? Anyway, so if you're going to buy technology, use it to its fullest capacity. So this year we are doing lunch and learns, and we're talking about variant specifically. So if you're a variant user and you're having questions about a specific feature, then make sure that you are on our free 99 lunch and learns, where we're talking about a very specific topic. Last week before last, I'm not sure, sometime in February, right? Was it February? I don't remember. Don't get me the line. But I hosted the Lunch and Learn myself. So if y'all missed that, you missed a treat, okay? Because I'm all the way turned up all the time. This is me, okay? And so we had an amazing Lunch and Learn. We're gonna have a great one this time coming up. We're talking about organization. So make sure you tune into that. Also, up and coming events, make sure that you catch me at where? Okay? Enterprise Connect. That is going to be in March, the end of March, March 27th through the 30th in Orlando. Then I'll also be speaking at SWPP, Society of Workforce Planning Professionals. That's going to be in Tennessee in May. Okay. Have some other amazing events that's coming up. So make sure that you click the link somewhere around here. It won't be Carmen San Diego, but it will be where you can find Juanita. Okay. All right, cool. All right. So we got all the housekeeping out of the way. All right. So are y'all ready for the guests? Drum roll, drum roll. Okay. We have none other than Jim Payne. Okay. He is the director of product marketing over at DialPad. Jim, thank you so much for coming to hang out with me today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
So let's get into it. You ready?
Oh, I'm always ready.
Okay, he say I'm okay. Y'all hear Jim. See, Jim say he's always ready. Okay, so Jim, first question I always ask this of every guest. Okay, because I had such a and this is what this season of Call Center Chronicles. So we're in season 5, and season 5 we're dedicating to the book I just wrote, which is Ground Up: Navigating a Non-Traditional Tech Career. I started off in the call center as a teen mom and found my way into technology. Absolutely loved it, or love it. And so I've had a very unique path into technology. It's not like I was ever a coder or anything like that. And so I'm a big advocate for normalizing women in technology in leadership roles and normalizing career pathing into technology in non-traditional ways. So I'm always interested when I come across people, leaders, and individuals that are in technology, what their path was. So can you tell me a little bit more about, like, did you just wake up one morning and was like, or when you were a child, did you wake up like, tell me, Jim, because you look like this may have happened. You look like you were one of those children that was like, when I grow up, I think I want to be a director of product marketing. Like, tell me, is that how you got into technology?
No, when I was a kid, I was mostly getting kicked out of school, getting in trouble, making my parents pull their hair out, giving them gray hair, that kind of thing was more what I was interested in. Riding my bike, getting lost. Um, my journey to technology after high school, I wanted to be a professional musician, so I did that for a
Come
little
on,
bit.
musician. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, playing the drums primarily. Just trying to do fill-in work and session work and things like that, and uh, the money was pretty inconsistent, and I thought maybe I better go back to school.
Maybe
Like,
this ain't the life.
well, yeah, well, it's a grind. So I went back. I went to college then and started working in market research after that, and then did some odd jobs. I was figuring myself out, I guess, and then tech was kind of starting to become a thing, and I was a little bit interested in it. So I found a job working at a UCAS company, in sales. So just wanted to do that. Always knew I wanted to work in marketing, and then worked my way up there. Worked odd jobs in college too. Worked in a call center in college, which was pretty funny, which gives me some interesting context for doing the work I do today. But yeah, eventually worked my way up at that company. Worked in marketing, and then that was in UCAS in particular. Then wound up working in AI and machine learning for the last 4 years, and then DialPad was doing some really interesting things with AI, and I thought that was really interesting because it wasn't so much of a, hey, you need all these data scientists and all these resources to actually use this in a practical way inside the contact center. It's easy to deploy and really impactful. So I thought that seemed really cool. So I was very happy to join DialPad to work on the contact center and AI stuff. So that's how I got where I am today, and it's been really fun. I like it. It's kind of analytical. It's kind of creative. It's a good mix of the two, which seems to work for me pretty well.
Yeah, I was talking to Dan earlier, you guys' chief strategy officer, and he was talking to me about his path through technology or to technology. And he was talking about how he started in sales as well. So it's interesting. I'm always so intrigued by people who end up in technology, how their path is not generally, oh yeah, let me wake up and be a coder. But when we talk about getting more youth and young adults exposed to technology, usually that's the lane that we talk about. We're talking about coding and things like that, and that's generally not people's path. And so I think it's really important that we start to talk more about those varying paths to technology and how you can um, find success in technology. You know, like yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right about that. A lot of great. My little brother has made himself a nice career in technology, and I think he just studied English literature, right? And he wanted to, to be a columnist at a newspaper and things like that, and then started doing copywriting for different companies and things like that. And then before you know it, he's a product manager at a really great tech company, and he's loving it and doing really well. So it's funny those little avenues you can take.
Yep, leveraging those transferable skills. See, I told y'all. So my audience, I've been telling y'all all this time about leveraging transferable skills. So you hear it there again. Copywriter, now in technology, and what you said your brother does again,
He's
Jim?
a product manager, yeah.
Product manager, yeah. So leveraging those skills and technology is not going anywhere. So I think, Jim, when we talk about, if I ask any product marketer, right, like, hey, tell me about your product, they're going to tell me all the amazing things that it is, right? And we're going to get to that. I promise we're going to get to that. We're going to get to all the amazing things that DialPad is. But can you tell me what DialPad is not?
What DialPad is not? Boy, I mean, the list is wrong. Like, we're not a restaurant. We're not, we're not things like that. There are a lot of things we're not. We're definitely not for. I think we see a lot of technology where companies make some kind of marginal improvement, right? Where it's like, hey, we're gonna enhance this by some marginal percentage, and a lot of folks are really comfortable with that. I would say we are not for that kind of person. Our goal is more leapfrogging. So sometimes folks are a little uncomfortable even with the conversation like AI. We saw that a lot in the early days of UCAS, even when people were so hesitant about moving anything to the cloud, right? They
Mm.
wanted, they're like, oh my God, we want these servers that we can touch, and things like that. And it was hard for people to get their mind around, the cloud is it's literally that same thing. It's just over there, it's not right here. It's just over there. And you just got to get cozy with it. And I think we're a lot, we're not for that kind of person who wants to play it safe and do these like these little things like that, and just say, hey, we're trying to like save a little bit on our carrier costs and that kind of thing. Some of those things wind up happening anyway, which are great, but we're looking for folks who want to transform their business. And that's our big thing.
That's a bar. I wish I had my bombs. I have these little things. I like drop bombs right here. I don't have them today. We gonna have to figure out. Okay, drop the bombs. I mean, we have to figure out how to get the bombs here. But that was a bomb. Like that's a nugget, a gem. It was everything. It was all those things. Like you're for companies that want to be transformative. That's what I
Yeah.
heard. Let me know if I'm making up stuff. But that's what I heard. I heard you're for companies that are not just looking to make incremental little minute changes, but companies that are really wanting to say, hey, we want to transform our customer experience, or we want to transform our employee experience, leveraging AI or leveraging whatever it is that they're looking at DialPad for. As a product marketer at DialPad, tell me, how do you get people, how do you shift organization's mindset, or what's your key thing that you're looking at? Like, how do you convey that message, and how do you get people to start to think like that? Like, hey, I want to be transformative. Is it something that people just have, or they don't have, or can you be taught to be transformative?
It really depends. I think, it depends on the person, depends on the company, depends on their vision. So for us, we really like to help people see the bigger picture, help, need to make sure they understand that we understand the problem too, right? We see this day in and day out. We sit in contact centers. We want to listen to the agents. We want to understand those challenges, and we need to make sure that the things we provide, AI on down, are going to make a material impact on those challenges. So that to me is one of the most critical things, is helping them see the difference that it can make. And it's not just telling them, it has to be showing them too. Like you said, AI is here now. It's not former conversation. It feels, even 5 years ago, it felt like the distant future, but it's here now. And so sometimes we need to show them. It's not something that's theoretical where we're going to give them some AI as a service sort of database where they have to have all their coders get in there and make the most of it. It's easy to deploy. It's low code or no code in many cases, and you can just go ahead and do it. So we really like to show folks as much as we can through demos, through setting up an environment, videos of just, hey, look, this is how it works, and this is the impact it can have. That to me is one of the more important things, is just showing instead of telling, to get people to think in that sort of transformative way. Because when it's just me running my mouth about stuff, it can sort of go in one ear out the other and say, oh, this guy works in marketing, what have you. Yeah, he's talking about this thing that that's not for us. That's inaccessible. We're a little bit behind that kind of thing, but they don't have to be. And that to me is essential to show people.
How do you, as a product marketer, what is your day to day, like how do you keep up with the ever changing landscape that is technology, right? And how do you try to position yourself ahead of the curve, like to convey that message? Because ultimately, when we think about marketing, right, it's just reaching our audience. So what are the things that you're building into the messaging of DialPad that's saying like, hey, this is how we want to reach our audience?
Yeah. The biggest thing is impact. We don't want to say what you can do with it necessarily. That is a core component, but the bigger piece is results. What's this going to drive for you? Do you have high agent turnover? Would you like that to go away or be minimized? Here you go. What's your first contact resolution rate? Is it pretty bad? Great. What would the impact be on your business if it was, double that or something to that effect? So that's one of the biggest ways we try to communicate to people, is something that's very value driven, very impact driven. We don't want to see the contact center as just a sort of cost center. And
Yeah.
some companies view it that way, which sucks. You have someone in finance who's like, this is just this kind of cost of doing business. We just have to do it. And it isn't great. We don't like that. That's the wrong mentality. We want to show people how it can have such a big impact on your customers' lives, on your agents' lives, on your operating bottom line, top line revenue. All those things can be impacted, and that to us is really important. So we try to communicate that as much as we can, help people understand the value that it can have, and evolve their thinking outside of that. It's just a little small-minded to view it as a cost center only.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I hate, I don't know if it's because I'm the contact center whisperer, right? Um, or, I grew up in the call center literally, but I hate when I hear the call center referred to as a call center, because it's actually literally the front line to your brand, right? When we think about the face of your organization, right? Many times it's not as much as that CEO is very marketable and he's everywhere, and that CMO is speaking on panels here and there. The first interaction that a customer generally has with a brand and their business is generally the customer service center, right?
Mhm.
Like that's their first real interaction. They may have seen the brand, they may have seen the CEO, the CMO somewhere, seen the logo on Sacramento Kings, right? They may have seen those things, but until they actually engage with the organization, that's their first real engagement or interaction with the brand. And I think the way the customer service or the contact center shows up in that, or that culture that they create in that contact center, is really truly what's going to solidify, the culture of the organization, solidify customer relationships. So when I think about contact centers in organizations, I'm always thinking about why are we still calling them cost centers? They are really, the crown jewel of the business, and that forward face of the brand.
Mhm.
Until we start really thinking about it like that, I think we're behind times. Now, you
Yeah.
said something that I think was really key in how you like to communicate messaging. And you mentioned, you try to really talk through the value adds and some of those pain points, like, hey, do you like having customers call back 30, 50 million 11 times, to get an answer to a question? No, you don't. So like this is how we solve for that. Or do you like having these horribly long wait times? This is how we solve for that. Do you have I'm interested, Jim, do you have a favorite feature of DialPad that you just like, you can talk about it every day, all day. You can market the heck out of it. Like you can do it without trying. Like, what's your favorite? I'm just interested. I'm being nosy. What's your favorite?
Yeah. Oh boy, there are a lot, and I think just because of my experience as being a call center agent, when I was in college, AI Agent Assist is one of the
I
biggest
knew you
things.
was gonna say it. I knew you was gonna say it.
Well, I love it because like I think about how transformative that would have been for me as an agent where like you probably had this experience too, right? Someone calls in, the technology has already failed in a lot of ways. So now they've been punted around from queue to queue. They haven't found the right person, what have you. And then they reach my phone, right? And I answer the phone. I'm, Mr. Charisma, and I'm having a great day. And then they're pissed. They're like, they've already been through this, like this crazy thing. And I'm like, oh my God, and they're asking questions and they're mad about God knows what, or even let's say I'm the first person they've reached and they're asking me questions I don't understand. At the time when I was doing that kind of work, my only recourse for not knowing the answer to their question was to stand up, mute my headset, and like ask the people around me and say, "Hey, do any of y'all know the
Anybody got an
XYZ?"
answer? You
Yeah, exactly.
lifelines, Jim.
Yeah, and they're all like on the phone and they're like, well, shut up, Jim. Like, why are you talking? And I'm like, oh my God. And then I don't know what to do. So then I just take them off. I'm like, oh, I'm going to send you into another queue, or I'm going to sit there and like Google stuff, which is, makes me, it's like making the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I feel nervous, like, especially at the time, it wasn't as though I got a lot of training to be an agent. It was like a half-day crash course in like, here's how you do it. And like, you're on the phones, kid. And I was like, oh no, so you can see why so many people quit. Because it's a tough, like you feel stressed and then it's bad for the customer and all those other things. But AI Agent Assist is so cool because, well, and here's the another funny thing about it is even institutional knowledge, right? You've probably been a place where you're the absolute guru, you know everything, right? And then you put in your 2 weeks notice and people are like, oh no, like,
Yeah,
oh no,
we'll give you a raise if you stay. Yeah. You
like,
got all this like
give her a Word doc and she somehow has to get her whole brain like into this Word doc, and then we're going to try and like reference it or something. And that's not good either. But AI Agent Assist takes that whole thing out of the equation where here's a soundbite for you. It democratizes institutional knowledge. Okay. So like,
hold on. You got to say it again. You got to say it again, Jim.
AI Agent Assist from DialPad democratizes institutional knowledge. How is that?
Perfect. And y'all got that in the chat? Did y'all get that in the chat? It democratizes. What was it? Dang, you gotta say it again, Jim. It
Democratizes institutional knowledge. Ordinarily all that institutional knowledge just sits in someone's mind. And if they leave one day or get hit by a bus or something, right? All that knowledge is now gone, and no one has.
Don't let them get hit by a bus, Jim. You can't be killing people off. Jeez, Louise, killing people off on Call Center Chronicles. Okay.
All right, no, they're fine. They're thriving somewhere. No, they're like Elvis. They're living in the Bahamas somewhere.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that kind of thing is really important because when AI is actually evaluating everything and listening to what the customer is saying, thinking about the context of what's happening, it's actually surfacing things and saying, hey, Jim, like, this is the answer to your question. Or this is the answer to the customer's question. Go ahead and say it confidently, and it's going to sort them out. Or here's where you can point them. That kind of thing is really, really important. It also has this AI parenting concept that's built in where if the knowledge base, oftentimes with things like this, it's only as good as the knowledge base behind it, right?
Absolutely.
But what this is actually doing, which is very, very cool, is it's actually going to surface things to whoever manages the knowledge base to say, hey, it looks like this answer is at odds with this other answer. So like you have conflicting information, or hey, you have duplicative information that might be causing confusion. You might want, like, should we delete this one? Should we do that? So it puts a person in the middle in a very effective way, but it actually surfaces those things to them. Because I've worked in situations where you've got AI or machine learning, but it's all connected to just an awful database, So then all of a sudden it's only half effective. This to us makes it very, very important. It's critical to have that human in the middle to evaluate, hey, this is good, this is bad, etc. And the AI actually pushes them and prompts them to do those things. So that way the agents have a way better experience. And then it just continues to like improve itself over time and improves everything, right? Because then you're even evaluating AI CSAT, at evaluating every interaction. So then you actually go back in and you say, okay, this is working, this is not, and then you improve that, and then the CSAT gets better, and now you're like establishing best practices. So now the agents are doing better, the customers are happy, and it just goes in this one big circle of improvement that is really cool. And to me, the AI agent assist is my favorite part, just because of when I was an agent, I would have killed for something like that. It just would have been so helpful, as opposed to me just standing up and yelling at everybody and saying, I don't know this person, and then I just punt them into someone else's queue, and then they are angry, and then they might get back to me, and they're like, "Oh, you're the dummy who,
you're the one
being lost."
Yeah, like real talk, like that is my probably favorite feature of AI, in the context of contact center is agent. So the beloved Sheila McGee and I were at a conference, and we were talking about AI. We were talking about these different things, and we were saying, just in time learning, like that's what we came up with for AI or agent assist. And we're talking about that concept around just in time learning, around how do you know what that does to not only helping agents that are already on the phones and different things like that, but what that also does to onboarding and enabling an agent. Like the amount of time it takes to enable an agent could probably be cut in half, because you already have the information built in, and the system is listening when you say this, pop up this information to tell the agent, hey, this is what the right answer is going to be. And then to take that a step further, you have just in time learning, but then you have next best action, like, hey, this is what you should say, this is what you also should do next. So it's one thing to say something, it's the next to also then be able to tell them what's the next thing that they should do. I think that's transformative type of contact center. That's transformative customer and employee experience. The other thing, I didn't know this, Jim. I didn't know this, that where you're talking about the parent agent assist piece of it, where it can then throw it up to a human and say, hey, this is conflicting. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So really neat concept. It's a search engine that the whole thing was built by us. So a lot of companies you'll find now, we're really getting into the weeds. If they're doing any kind of AI, it's using one of two sort of open source or even pay to play search engines, right? And what we built, and I'm probably going to get to the limitations of my technical knowledge. And so what you're hearing is me regurgitating things that smarter people than I have said.
We can stay on the marketing, but you just tell me more about the parent, because I didn't know that DialPad had that in there. I knew about the agent assist piece and what I was calling just in time learning. I know about AI CSAT, and I love that as well, being doing quality monitoring for some time, and having to listen to every single interaction, that inferring, CSAT and saying, hey, let's listen to all these interactions. That's dope. But I didn't know the piece. I feel like y'all left me out the scoop on this information about tossing it up to parent level and putting a human in the mix. And the reason I'm digging into that is because, people are always saying, oh, AI is going to remove the need for humans, and, it's going to take away all the jobs. But that just triggered that thought that you guys are still, even in all the transforming and transformative thinking that you guys are doing, you're still including humans to say, hey, if this, this is conflicting with this, we may need to intervene and take this into consideration. I think that's pretty dope.
Yeah, and a lot, like, it's super important to us because it's like this grid-based search engine. It's like a check engine light. You've got to really any other like assist something or other. It might look really cool, but it's no good if the engine is bad. You need that check engine light, and for us, this parenting concept is kind of like that. The health of the engine, what's going on there, is something askew, and then it's going to turn on and have a human look at it and say, hey, like, this is kind of screwy. You might want to get in here and fix it, which is just really important. It's super important because we see, I've used AI things many, many times that have a bad database and they don't have that kind of functionality. And like, before you know it, the whole thing is screwed up. And it's giving you you might even have multiple inputs for the same thing, and it's so weird. So it's a critical piece for
And
us.
I think that's also the reason when people say, "Oh, I don't, I don't want to adopt these new technologies or I don't want to come along on the curve." I think this is why, like, to the main point that you're saying, when it doesn't work, technology that doesn't work does no one any good, right? And so then people become frustrated and they want to disengage. But when the technology works, it has proven time and time again to make us be more efficient and more effective, move quicker, faster, and get more and more things done. So that's that on that.
Yeah.
Um, hey, tell me, Jim, I'm really interested. If you had to pick three industries, I'm gonna give you three because I know you're gonna be like, I can't do one. If if you had to pick three industries where you're like, I can see our AI, solution really making a huge impact in that industry, or industries you're currently making a huge impact in, what would those three industries be?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Retail is going to be a big one for us. Even when I think about my own experience as a consumer, calling retailers for any reason, it can be really, really bad. Uh, so that one we can make a big impact in particular. And this is a little. It's funny because it's a good question, but it's like any industry. If you've got support, this is going to be helpful. We are seeing a lot of movement in fintech as well from DialPad. If I was to pick three, I would say retail, fintech, um, probably healthcare would be the third. Yeah, that I would say we like to see a massive impact. There's even, especially healthcare has some interesting compliance things that our QA scorecards are really uniquely qualified to fit.
Mm.
If you just things or not say certain things, what have you, they can actually evaluate that. I will tell you and then surface to supervisor, like, hey, like this call was out of compliance. You might want to like check on that one, that kind of thing. So I
Do the
see
sound
those.
again, Jim. Do the sound again.
That's the sound our AI makes if something goes. It goes,
So listen, that was actually the question I was going to ask you next on the heel of that, where
yeah.
we talk about the three industries. How so you told me about like healthcare, like because it's all of the compliance things. You're doing the QA and saying, hey, this is out of compliance. Might want to check on that. How so for retail and fintech?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, QA scorecards are really interesting because you can program them to do anything you want. So, um, for example, even from a retail perspective, let's say, where maybe you get someone calling in and you want to make sure that your people are are doing the right things, even, for example, like following the right instructions and following the right order of procedure. Everyone here has probably called their ISP for some reason, right? And as frustrating as that can be, you need like the agent needs to go through like an order of operations, which is, have you rebooted your router? Have you done XYZ? Blah blah blah, right? And that's one of those things that QA scorecards can be programmed to make sure that the agents are doing that, right? You don't want an agent necessarily just jumping around and saying, "Oh, let's get into diagnostics. Let's start messing with their router and doing stuff like that." When maybe it just needed a quick reboot, no big deal. So that even that that seems like a small use case, but it can be pretty important. Just making sure people are following the
The flow.
procedure, the
Mm-hmm.
flow. Yeah,
Following the
and it
flow.
goes back to that training thing that we talked about earlier, where as opposed to trying to give someone an 8-hour crash course in knowing everything they would possibly need to know as an agent, you can just teach them how to use the AI, use the scripts, things like that. And then all of a sudden on the back end, it's just going to evaluate how effective they're being at following those things. And if the answer is they're not, then you can, go talk to the agent, right? Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, real slick stuff, man. I'm gonna be hitting something the powers that be up at DialPad to be like, hey, y'all got to tell me more about tossing this, this agent assist thing up to people. Like, I got to dig more. So we're gonna be doing a part two. Y'all stay tuned in the chat, okay? Y'all stay tuned for a part two of this conversation because I'm really interested in digging into that more. Tell me, one thing, Jim, I love to ask of every guest on the show is, what's one thing that people never ask you? Because I'm sure you do tons of interviews all the time. Like, what's one thing that people never ask you, whether it be life, about the company, just, career, whatever? What's that one thing that people never ask you that, like, dang, I wish they would have asked this, or this would have been really insightful for their audience? What's that one thing?
Yeah, I would love it if people asked more about deployment. that's something funny that a lot of people kind of
That's good.
some folks get real into it, but I would like people to really get in the weeds because that I think is an area where we truly shine. Um, okay, for the last I worked at an AI company for a little bit, and very very tough. Okay, it's like, hey, it's going to do X, Y, Z. It's going to do all these things. And a lot of times people say, great, but oh, here are all the dev resources that you're going to require, and that team might get one big project a year, something like that. Pretty tough. And from DialPad's perspective, it's so easy to deploy this level of AI. In most cases, even with the AI agent assist thing, for example, it can even scrape unstructured data pretty easily, as opposed to we need to get a whole team of data scientists around this, like make sure it's all pulling the right stuff. So I would want people to dig into that they should with every vendor. And if they're not, they're doing themselves a disservice because like that transition can be really challenging if you're coming from something old school to something, really, really modern and powerful like DialPad. And our team, Danny Gunter is a guy who joined our company a while back, and he's done such an awesome job. We deploy so easily, so quickly, and you can have these awesome AI features making a huge impact on your business so fast. You don't need a bunch of coders. You don't need anything like that. And I would love it if people asked more about that, just so we could show off a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great point that you bring up because I've had customers who have, or I've talked to, like, again, Solid Rock is primarily known for our training and development. So we go into organizations and we train them on workforce management and how to build their workforce management teams, on all those good things, train on Variant, how to use the workforce management applications. And then because we're doing that as a byproduct, we've seen so many systems and tools that we get asked a lot of time about, product recommendations. And so we're making product recommendations and helping with the procurement process. And one of the things that's a part of our process, right, is grading deployment. Like that's how when we're looking at solutions for our customers and we're saying, what does deployment look like? Do you have a dedicated team, or do you have a team inside that will be able to, because every solution, this might be a great solution for you, but because the deployment, the way the system is created or it needs to be deployed, you need a team, or the way this solution is created, you don't need a team. So that goes into our matrix when we are looking at procurement for customers, and it makes all of the difference. Just like adoption, like training and all of those different things, deployment makes a huge difference on adoption, how a customer is going to adopt a tool. I've seen customers, real talk, no lie, I've seen customers buy a solution and just sit there because they don't have the bandwidth to deploy it. Like
Yeah.
that it always blows my mind. And so I think that is insanely important, that as you start to look at new solutions and what you're going to bring into your organization, that is a part of the procurement process. You have to ask those kinds of questions like, hey, we can afford it. Yeah, the solution looks good. Yeah, it does everything that we need it to do. But what does deployment and adoption look like? Those are two things that people generally don't talk about, they don't ask about, and is one of our points of difference is, and when we help customers, is we are asking about those two things. What does deployment look like? What is adoption? How do you adopt the solution in your environment?
Yeah.
Because it makes all the difference in the world.
Oh, it's absolutely critical. And I'm embarrassed to say I've even done that, not contact center, right? But it's like I've been the point person on, buying a new solution at a company, whether, for competitive intel, you name it, right? And then all of a sudden it just kind of gets shelved because we're just like, don't quite have the bandwidth to support it, or we never quite get going. And I think that tends to happen a lot when people have if you have an urgent need, with any tool, if it's urgent enough, it can stop you from being thoughtful about the way you go about it. So I like that that's part of your approach. You should always be thoughtful about those things, even if your need is kind of urgent. But and that's kind of one of the cooler things about DialPad too, is if your need is urgent, that's fine. Because we can deploy fast. It's very, very easy. I've worked with some different contact center software solutions, and it's like the ease of deployment is, it is head and shoulders above anything I've seen before, at DialPad. Just in like, even when I started, we had an SE and I just said, hey, show me how to build a new contact center. in this. And he just, yeah, no worries. And he was like, okay, cool. And he was like 5 clicks. He's like, here you go. And now we're setting all the routing, we're adding members, we're doing all these things. And I was just like, this is easy, really easy. And I would also, I don't know if you ever see this happen, but sometimes I even fall into this trap of thinking that because something is easy, it's not good.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. That's a
which
huge trap. That's a trap. Don't fall
it's an
into it.
it's an odd bias, isn't it? Where it's like, oh, this looks too simple, it must be terrible. But like that's not the truth at all. Like it is easy, but
It's almost that too good to be true thing, right? Like
yeah.
because I think where that comes from though, Jim, is that technology before has kind of ruled based on its complexity, right? Like,
Mhm.
hey, we're super complex, we're super this, that's kind of where they've ruled, right? Like, oh, we need this thing that's super, that's been their marketing, right? Like, hey, buy us because we're super complex, we give you this big advantage because nobody can figure it out, right? Whereas now the advantage is really like ease of deployment, speed of innovation, how quickly can you take in suggestions from your customer and implement it in the solution, the UI, how does it look and feel, all of those things are now becoming, coming to the forefront. And it's not, is it big, is it massive, and you getting your bang for your buck. It's more so, is it easy,
Yeah.
can I just do this quickly,
Yeah. I remember one of my first jobs out of college joining this company, and we had an old Cisco on-prem PBX, right? This is obviously not call center related, but it was like, it was funny because it was like this guy's Tom. He had the desk before me, and just to change my voicemail greeting, we needed to get a Cisco certified technician out there to like
Right.
sort out this such a mundane, inane little thing. And I was like, we need someone who's undergone a lot of training to sort this out. But it's so nice now, whether it's UCAS or CCAS, you name it, right? It's like I just like take this
Just hit
mobile app.
record, hit the
Yeah,
record button.
yeah, yeah.
That's hilarious. Well, Jim, I could talk to you forever. I told you we would be just going on and on and on and on. We definitely got to do a part two because I got to dig into some other topics, but I know we're at our time. Listen, tell me what's next for DialPad. What you can tell me anyway. What's next for DialPad, and where can the people find you?
Yeah. Find me as a person. LinkedIn's a good spot. Dialpad.com. Take a look at our product videos, like that. Where we're headed is it's AI, up and down, right? We want to release as many AI features as possible. We want to give our customers the benefits of all that complexity without, minimizing accessibility. And that's a really important thing to us. The AI has to be good. It has to have a material impact, but it also has to be easy to deploy, easy to use. I don't want people getting a data scientist involved to use any of our features. So that's where we're driving. That's where we're headed. We want to sit in as many contact centers as possible. If you're in Denver or anywhere around, hit me up. I would love to come sit in your contact center and just listen to your agents and watch the way they work. We love doing that kind of thing just to get more real world feedback. Even if right, like I'll come hang out all day and just watch your folks work and see what we can build for you, utilizing AI. So and that's a real offer, that's not
I was gonna say,
hyperbole.
y'all heard Jim now. Y'all heard Jim. He said he's coming out. Okay, he coming out. He's gonna get flued out. City girls. Anyway, I'm gonna act right. I'm gonna act right for Call Center Chronicles. Okay, I'm gonna act right. Listen, Jim. First of all, so I always love interesting backgrounds. I love your background. You win my background of the year award. I know we're only in March, right? But you're winning the award right now. I see these guitars. You said you're a musician.
Yeah.
I know you say you're a musician. So do you play? Again, I know you play, but do you like what all instruments do you play? Is it just guitar?
Well, drums is my best instrument. That one's over here off screen. Guitar is definitely second best. I can play the violin all right. I can I can play the piano a little bit, but I'm not super great at it. But yeah, I play just about a little bit of everything. I'm a very musical person, so if you gave me a new instrument and said, hey, take 6 months and get pretty good at this, I could probably figure it out pretty fast.
Okay. All right. I love that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. I love these backgrounds. I love these backgrounds that are on Call Center Chronicles. We are very, like I like to say, the audience knows we down here just having a good time, hanging out, having good conversation. And so I absolutely love it. Thanks
Thanks.
so much for hanging out with me today. Hang out in the green room. I'm going to wrap the show really quickly and then I'll be over right with you. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Another episode of Call Center Chronicles in the bag. Was that not amazing? Tell me, hey, I want to know. Type in the comments and tell me, what was your nugget? What was your favorite nugget from the show? I have so many, but I ain't going to say what they are because I know how y'all do. Y'all going to be like, oh, this was my favorite nugget. No, tell me what your favorite nugget, tell me what your favorite nugget from the show was. And you already know, y'all probably can guess what my favorite nugget is because I went on and on about it. But listen, leave me a comment and let me know. Also, let me know who I should interview next. Who should I interview next? Also, remember, catch me out at Enterprise Connect. That's coming up. Catch me, or you can catch me at SWPP. That's coming up. And then make sure that you're on our Variant Lunch and Learns. Okay, guys? All right. Until next time, let's go be great. Take over the world. See y'all soon. Bye.